sales development representative as well. And then قبلها كمان can be Alcatel Lucent بفرنسا. We'll start off the session today by just a small quote that صراحة يعني it's a very interesting quote that I really like. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one that is most adaptable to change. And why حطيت هذا الquote in particular? Because اليوم يعني الوضع اللي نحن فيه and where we are at today, we are at a very unique period during the recruitment industry, during the job hunting industry, etc., especially for the people in the Middle East and in particular the people in Lebanon. We have a crisis that is happening on our hand, and now finding a job is extremely difficult, especially for our own country as well. We're going to have, and the whole point of this session, is, especially with Rotaract, is to try to help everyone to find a job and to be able to get hired and get a job eventually. What we'll discuss is that we're going to have a small introduction about what is LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn, and how you can benefit from LinkedIn. We're going to have a step-by-step guide on exactly how to go on the tips and tricks from LinkedIn and how to make sure that you are in the top ranking for a job in particular, and how to find a job as well in particular. Later on we'll discuss it on, and I'll show you a real life demo actually. That's something that we're going to do as well today, where I'm going to show you a real life demo on how to search for a job and how to really go over LinkedIn and use the profile. Eventually there's a couple of products that we're going to show you specifically on the job section on LinkedIn, specifically on also the learning section of LinkedIn, where you can get some free courses online, and then we'll conclude it with the Q&A and the questions with Gael and the team. All right. So please, guys, again, if you have any questions, Fauzi has sent the link to write down the questions there. So please make sure to write down the questions. And last thing before we start, please note that this session is going to be recorded as well. And Patrick and the team are going to send the recording later on for everyone who attended the March Forward session. Today, what we're going to discuss is really how to build the profile on LinkedIn, how to find a job on LinkedIn, and how to prepare for interviews as well. We're going to have a bit more on that, how to learn and how to connect with people on LinkedIn. So these are the 5 main pillars that we're going to discuss. And I want to make sure that you guys are prepared for that to really get things out there going. Today, obviously, we have COVID. There's a lot of problems that are happening, in particular with COVID. It's still uncertain on various areas, specifically in terms of there's a hire freeze across major companies. We have noticed that. There are some companies that are closing, unfortunately. People are losing their job. That's an important aspect. There's a lockdown in some of the states. In the Arab countries, كمان هلا بتعرفوا هالشيء. And there's still a lockdown happening, and there's still a couple of changes that are happening as well from a company perspective. Today, the situation is difficult more than ever, but there are always a light at the end of the tunnel, like they say. And COVID-19 is about to end, hopefully within the end of this year. And we want you guys to be prepared as much as possible to when this actually starts, the economy starts shifting again, you'll be prepared to make sure that you guys find a job and move forward with this. And we want you eventually, because of when this economy is about to open and there's already jobs that are being posted today, we want you to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn today is the largest professional network in the world. We're talking about 729 million people overall that are using LinkedIn. We're talking about 25 million jobs or more that are being posted on LinkedIn worldwide, again, worldwide. In MENA in particular, we're talking about 40 million people approximately. In the UAE, we're talking about 2 million people, for example. In KSA, almost 3 million people right now. In Egypt, almost as well 4 million people. So there's a lot of expansion across the GCC country. On top of that, the expansion across Europe, Asia, and the Americas as well. So LinkedIn is widely used to make sure that you are finding a job, connecting with people, and learning as well, and other features. There's a big difference between a profile, a resume, and LinkedIn, okay? And that's something that I want to clarify from the beginning. That, guys, I want you to know that LinkedIn is a complementary thing to your resume. And today, and we'll talk more about this, there's a big difference between your LinkedIn profile and your resume. For example, a LinkedIn profile, it speaks to not just one employer, because usually resumes are directed to one in particular employer, but they speak to so many employers, because that's your identity as well, and that's your story, right? We're gonna LinkedIn, it goes more into details, specifically on skills, on projects, on interest, on certifications, and many more. That's something extremely important. And on LinkedIn, you can add these projects, and we'll talk more about this as well in details later on. Okay. And then on top of that, LinkedIn allows other professionals and employers to interact with you guys, and to learn and to contact you. And that's something extremely important, because on your CV, you don't have that feature. So these are mainly the important things. And that's why today we're having this session, to make sure that you guys are prepared for that. Okay. Something important, and I actually, we do this every day and day in, day out. 9 out of 10 employers use LinkedIn during the hiring process. So I'll give you here the real life stat scenario. Us at Kaizen Firm, we are a one-stop shop HR solution, right? But also from a recruitment perspective, we have more than 450 clients in the region. All of them, and the number one thing that we use all the time is LinkedIn. So whenever we want to try to reach out to someone or find a candidate, we always go to LinkedIn. 90% of employers, they use LinkedIn directly. So that's why I think it's extremely important for you guys to use LinkedIn in a proper way and build a proper profile. And that's the whole point of this session today, and we'll discuss it a bit more. Eventually, LinkedIn is your story. It's your profile, obviously, but it's also your story on everything from when you started, going to school, even when we're starting, at a younger age. You can put a lot of your activities there on LinkedIn. So we'll talk about that in a bit, all the way to your professional career, even if you had any internship, any work experience, or other aspects and extracurricular activities that we'll discuss. And that's the whole point of it. We'll start off by, talking the importance of a photo. Members with a photo get up to 9 times more connection requests and 21 times more profile views on LinkedIn. And that's extremely important. Now, I want to make sure that you guys know that, you don't need a fancy photography photo. You just need something from the shoulder up, from a picture perspective, where you are being professional. Obviously, please don't post pictures where you are at the beach, holding a beer and, tanning or something. That's extremely inappropriate on LinkedIn. You don't need, again, like I said, you don't need fancy photography or filters or Snapchat filters or any of that. Just make sure, guys, that you're having a decent photography, decent picture. Like I said, from the shoulders up, show your face in a professional way. It doesn't have to be a full suit, but something decent. And then that's extremely important. And also, this helps you to get 36 times more messages, because you're relating to the person. You're putting, like I say, you're putting a face to the name. And that's something extremely important as well. So we'll start off with this. And then moving on, when we're talking about the importance of having an industry, members who have the industry section put on their profile, they get up to 9 times more profile views. And the reason why I'm saying all of this today is because we actually use this ourselves at Kaizen Firm. As a recruitment company, as also, if someone doesn't have the industry, they're not going to show up in the actual search. And that's something important that I want you guys to know, that because of our experience, myself being 4.5 years at LinkedIn, and also today being the vice president of Kaizen Firm and working with companies on recruitment standards, if someone doesn't have the industry section put in their profile, they are not going to show in the search in our algorithm. And that's something I want you guys to understand carefully, that whenever we're searching on LinkedIn from a recruitment perspective and a recruitment background, we search by industries. So I'll give you a small example. Last week, I was meeting with a company that is particularly in oil and gas, and we were talking more about recruitment in particular within the region, and specifically hiring from some countries. And one of the things they mentioned, that this person that they're looking for, they need to come from an oil and gas industry. So we start our search by putting the industry as a filter. And if someone doesn't have that filter, it doesn't mean, even though they are from an oil and gas industry, but they forgot that filter, they're not going to show in the algorithm. So that's something that you guys need to know. The more information you put on LinkedIn, the better it is. And that's extremely important. Step three is I would definitely encourage that extremely important step, which is a compelling summary. Your elevator pitch. The summary is the way that you have, quick 40 words plus, just introduce yourself, what you are interested, what you're doing, and how you're doing things. That's something, that I highly recommend you do as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be fancy writing or whatever it is, just something simple, who you are, what you are passionate about, for example. That's something you can add in your summary, and make sure that you focus on the accomplishments that you have done in your career, whether it is a fresh grad, if you have won an award, or if you've done something incredible, or you got an extremely very high grade in a particular university or course or something. Make sure that that's highlighted in your summary. And like I said, it doesn't have to be fancy writing or anything, so don't stress about that. Just make sure that you put that in there, from a compelling summary perspective. Step four, and that's something that I noticed, especially in MENA, honestly, that make sure that you have up to date position, and make sure that you detail your work experience. So it's not just writing one or two words or one or two sentences. That's a big mistake, because make sure that when you're talking about what you've done in your career and throughout your career, make sure that we talk more about it in details, and what you've achieved, what you've delivered for the company you've worked with. I'll give you a small example. When we were talking just before that session with Patrick, Gael, and a couple of people from the team, they were talking about just having a good LinkedIn profile. They've put their experience, their background, but I've noticed that they've put, some of them, they've put one line or two lines in there. That's not enough. If you were working as a digital marketing manager, for example, or a graphic designer, put your work in your experience. You can add rich media content, PDF documents, Word documents, even links, right? And hyperlinks to your profile or your portfolio. That's a big important thing that I would encourage you to do. One of our clients, which is an architecture firm client in Qatar, for example, we work with them extensively. And we, when we're searching for architects, graphic designers, these, particular profiles, we actually look at their portfolio on LinkedIn first. So that's something that I would encourage you to do. If you have been working on any kind of project, or you have any venture or business idea that you've worked on before, make sure to mention that. Now, I know that some of you are going to ask me eventually, Zahy, I've had an experience, like just one internship, for example. I just graduated recently, and so what? So make sure to detail that internship, no matter how small it is or how brief it was. Obviously at least a month, but make sure to mention that on LinkedIn. And I'll show you today, like even myself, I put on LinkedIn every single detail from my experience, even on something that I worked on, when I was 16 or 17 or 18. I've included it on LinkedIn. It helps. So like I said, detail your work experience. It gets you 5 times more connection requests. That's important, and I want you guys to know this. 8 times more profile views, and 10 times more messages, because you are relating to that person within this particular experience and background. Today, because of also the pandemic, roles are changing constantly, and the recruitment industry is changing constantly. There's a lot of things that you want to focus on, and everything is online. So make sure to put that on LinkedIn. Okay. Add examples of your work. Something that I just mentioned right now is make sure that you upload some photos, some presentations, any videos that you have. You can actually include them on LinkedIn. If you have any YouTube link, I know that some of the people that I've worked with in the past, they mentioned that they were looking for, they mentioned, for example, that they were looking for influencers, just as an example, right? If they have a YouTube channel like YouTubers, right? Make sure to add the links of the YouTube on LinkedIn. You can actually do that. And it actually gives a more dynamic and a visually nicer profile. I'll show you my profile in a bit. We'll go over, like I said, to the guys before, Patrick and Gael and the team. We're gonna actually, I'll show you a real life example of my profile, how it looks and how it seems, especially with the rich media content and the story. And then I hope you guys will do the same, because like I said initially, the more content you put on LinkedIn, the better it is, and the better the algorithm will be. That's something important that I want you guys to know. وفي كتير قصص مثل ما بيقولوا I'm saying this in Arabic. في كتير قصص انه في كتير ناس يعني بيقولوا انه هيدا معلش هيدا معلش او هيدا ما بدي زيدها او هيدا ما عم بدي زيدها. And something that, like, you know, that's missing within our region is the fact that you have to know that if you're missing something, you're not going to show in the algorithm in LinkedIn. And I know that a lot of people are going to, you know, come to us in the end of session and tell us, I've applied to 1,000 jobs and I've never got an answer from LinkedIn or whatever it is. It's because maybe you are missing something on your profile, and that's important. So that's extremely important. So, you know, hopefully after the session, you guys will be able to have all of this and have a great LinkedIn profile. Something that's really, like, a lot of people forget this completely, which is the volunteer experience. If you have a volunteer experience, if you've done anything that is related to a volunteer experience or anything that's like a good thing in life, right, or whatever it is, even if you joined Rotaract, right, Rotaract is a volunteer thing, for example. If you have that, make sure to add it on LinkedIn, and it helps you to get 6 times more profile views because it shows a different side of, you know, of you, and it shows a different side of your profile. And that's why I'm telling you guys, make sure to add the volunteer experience. It definitely helps, specifically on roles that, you know, that need that kind of things. NGOs, they have always a lot of open roles that are there if you are interested in working in NGOs. So that's something as well that you should consider. And finally, add skills. Add skills and get endorsed. Now that's super important. Why? Because, and that's something that we've discussed it before the session with the guys there, that, you know, from a skills perspective, I would definitely recommend you to put something between 20 and above, nothing less than 20, because definitely you have more than 20 skills. And the skills can go up to from, you know, Microsoft Office to Excel to financial analysis, to anything related to AutoCAD, C++, Java, anything that you have, anything that you've worked or you've learned in your career, make sure to add it as a skill. And members who add, you know, 20 and above skills, at least 20, again, like I said, at least minimum 20, all the way to 30, 40 sometimes, they will get 5 times more views and 70 times more profile views, right? And because eventually these skills that you're going to add, they're going to be part of the algorithm search when you're actually looking for someone. And from a talent perspective, that's also something extremely important that I want you guys to know. Eventually, what I'm trying to say is that when a recruiter goes on LinkedIn, right, and from the recruiter tool, they're using the recruiter tool, and they're going to put all the filtration. And if you are missing one skill set, you are never going to be shown in the search of a recruiter, right? And that's something important that I want you to guys know, that you need to put more information and more skill set. And actually the LinkedIn algorithm will show you what kind of jobs and what are the skill set that maybe you are missing or maybe you're not missing. And we'll get, from the real life example that we're going to have in a bit, we are going to actually show you a real life on how it shows you from a skills perspective what you're missing. Okay. Moving on, from a recommendation perspective, that's extremely important. Like, it's insanely important to have this feature on LinkedIn. Now I know what you're gonna say. A lot of people might tell me, but Zahy, I haven't had a great experience yet. I've just done a small internship or whatever it is. The recommendations shouldn't just be of work experience related. It could be university experience, university recommendation. Let's say it could be like something that you've done from a volunteer perspective, or something you've done as an internship or a side job that you've worked on. For example, let's take Rotaract, right? I'm sure that Emil Mawad is with us here. So let's say Patrick has worked with Emil, from Rotaract perspective for a very long time. And Emil really vouches for Patrick, and they worked hard together, even on that Rotaract aspect, right? Not particular career or internship or work or whatever it is, right? Patrick can actually ask a recommendation from Emil, And Emil can vouch for Patrick because of the long-lasting working relationship that they've had together. So that's just an example on how you can get a recommendation. If you actually did a course during your university day, right, and you've actually aced that course and you've got an A+ on the course and you've increased, you have a great relationship with the teacher or the tutor in that particular aspect, I definitely recommend you to ask them on LinkedIn if they have a LinkedIn profile to recommend you, because that actually will help a lot. And it's always good to get some recommendations, even from an internship perspective. Like I mentioned earlier, make sure to ask your employer or your manager or your colleague even for a recommendation on LinkedIn. It always helps. And finally, let's not forget about location. Let's not forget about education. Let's not forget about publications, and let's not forget about accomplishments. And we'll talk one by one here. Location perspective, make sure to put the location, because we do filter by locations. A lot of the times, employers, they come to us whenever they want to recruit, and they ask us actually for specific locations. يعني اليوم, I'll give you a small example, especially now during the pandemic, right? I'm sure you've heard in Kuwait اليوم they aren't actually opening the borders yet, and there's not yet visa processing for newbies coming into Kuwait. So now with a couple of clients in Kuwait, and they tell us, we're looking to hire only from Kuwait. So if someone is in Kuwait and they don't have the fact that the location that they are in Kuwait, they're not going to show on our search. And that's why I'm going to make sure to put the location and that where you are currently and where you are based. So if you are based in Lebanon or if you are based in any other country, make sure to mention that. From an education perspective, and that's something extremely important, and I will focus a bit more on it. Detail your education and detail your background. Mention where did you learn, what did you study, if you have any certification or awards during your education years, if you ever done any extracurricular activities, if you've worked any on projects that is outside of the scope but within the education, make sure to mention that within the education section and talk more about it. If you graduated with honors or distinction, definitely put that on LinkedIn. It extremely is helpful as well to make sure that you get more views, because sometimes employers do want to hire only the best of the best from a talent perspective. From a publication perspective, also, that's extremely important. If you're a writer, if you like to write, if you like to talk more about blogs, if you are interested in writing more about posts or anything like that, make sure to mention that on LinkedIn and publish that on LinkedIn. So for example, myself, I've wrote a couple of articles, very brief, and I've wrote them on LinkedIn and I've published them on LinkedIn. So that's also extremely important. And finally, from an accomplishment perspective, one of the important things is that you diversify your background and your experience. And also what I would suggest is that you actually speak about yourself. So LinkedIn should be the way that you actually show off your skills and accomplishments to the employer to actually grab their attention, right? And that's why I'm mentioning this to you guys, that from an accomplishments perspective, there is no such thing as a bad accomplishment. Any accomplishment that you've done in your experience and in your career, throughout your career, that's also always an accomplishment. So make sure to mention that on LinkedIn and put it there on LinkedIn. And finally, something important from a statistic perspective, 50% of hires result from a personal connection. That's actually today. Myself, I've helped I've had more than 30 people to find jobs on LinkedIn, and I'm extremely proud of that because of my personal connections as well. So I want you guys to know that it's always helpful to have a personal connection with the people. And I'm just going to take a break right now from the actual session, just to go on LinkedIn and then just show off. So this is my LinkedIn, all right? And this is a real life example. Patrick, if anything is not clear, please make sure to mention that to me. So I'm just going to show to the guys and our attendees today our profile and my particular profile and aspect, and where you can actually start filtering your profile. So that's today where I am. So as you can see, I'm currently, the VP at Kaizen firm. and I have everything related. And we'll talk more about the open to work, the providing services. You can see that I have my university, and you can see that from that aspect, that button here, that's where you can actually edit things, right? Show education, country, location, and industry. You can see that I have the industry put there, and that's a drop-down menu from an industry perspective. You can see that I have everything right put there, and then we'll go over. Sorry, so. And then we'll go over, from the open to work perspective. That's we'll talk about it in a bit. You can see here that I have a summary, very brief. And what do I do today? We're talking more about the featured. That's some of the articles that that I've posted, and some of the rich media that I've posted. And there's a lot of things here that we can talk about a bit more in details. So if you see here, if I click more on featured, right, these are some of things that that I posted on my own profile, and that's something extremely important. That's my personal dashboard, and that's my activity today. Now, from an experience perspective, you've noticed that today I'm the head of global sales and the vice president of Kaizen's firm. We're talking more about the leading the expansion, etc. From my LinkedIn, background. So here I was in Dubai, in the UAE. This is my background from a 2 years experience. You've noticed here that I talked a bit more also about my accomplishments. That's something that I would definitely recommend you to talk more about. You're talking here about more as well, rich media, to you see how my profile is starting to look. And then here during my tenure here in Dublin, and also here, I'll talk more about my achievements, and I've detailed in particular every single aspect that I've created and I launched during my LinkedIn time in Dublin. We're talking more here about my attainment, my awards, and then also you'll notice that I went down and I talked more here about my experience in France, with Alcatel-Lucent, my experience with Tournier. I even went to my experience a bit more with Mike Spar Ski School for a bit of time, very briefly. And here I'm talking here about my marketing internship with Schwery Group. That was even for 4 months, but I did mention that on LinkedIn. From an education perspective, we're talking more about, here I've mentioned a couple of things from what I've done during my master's degree in Grenoble. I talk more here about my tenure and time with Lebanese American University, LAU, in Jbeil. And I talk here about also some of the things from my high school days. So if you notice also, in my time at LAU, this is something that I've done. I was volunteer at Children's Cancer Center, member of Student Council, etc., etc. From a license and certification perspective, so if you have any license or certification, this is the area where you can add it, right? On this button here, you can add any license or certification that you have. You can see the issuance of the organization. You can talk more about the month, the year, the credential ID, and the credential URL. And that's something as well that is important. If you have any certification, make sure to put that on LinkedIn. Now, from a volunteer experience, also, like I mentioned, mention the volunteer experience that you have. And if you have any licenses, any more, anything like that. If you've actually have LinkedIn Learning, this will also show you, the license and the certification of your LinkedIn Learning courses that you've taken on LinkedIn. From a skills perspective, also, I did mention that to you that minimum of 20, and you can go up to more. You've noticed that I've put approximately all my skills that I've actually learned throughout my career and my school days. And then from a recommendation perspective, also, you can see here that I've received 9 recommendations and I've given 8 recommendations to other people as well. So you can see here that I've, even from my, I'll give you a small example. That's one of my friends. I've worked on a lot of projects with her during my master's days, and she recommended me. So that's also something that you can do on LinkedIn. And that's the program director of my master's, and it's not always related to work, like I mentioned. That's just a program director that I've worked with a lot, and she, Marie-France de Dertian, and this helped me actually to find my internship and my work experience during Paris days. And that's also something why I'm telling you guys, make sure to talk more about that. From the accomplishment perspective, that's where you can add your accomplishments, and that's why I was telling you guys, to put that. If you've taken any test, I know that, for example, sometimes people, they take GMAT, IELTS, or SAT, or whatever. If you want to, you can add this and you can put it there. You can talk more about the language, the project, course, the patents, if you have any patents, and publications as well. Make sure to add that. And then don't forget, guys, that to add your languages that you speak, right? And that's something extremely important, because if I know, like most of you speak Arabic, definitely, I think all of you, but like if you didn't add that you speak Arabic on your own profile, even though you are in Lebanon and you're Lebanese and whatever, but if you didn't add Arabic, and if an employer is looking for Arabic speakers, you are not going to show on their actual search. That's why and that's what when I was doing with the guys before the session. So languages, most of you guys didn't put that, from the Rotaract peeps. So make sure to add that as well, from language perspective. Even though we know that you speak English, we know that you speak French if you are USG, or if you speak Arabic because you are in Lebanon, but make sure to add that on LinkedIn. Talk more about the courses. These are some of the courses that I've added because of my master's degree, awards that I've got throughout my career, publication organizations that I actually support, and some of the projects. So I've actually included my live business case project for my master's degree on LinkedIn. And eventually interest, obviously these are some of the things that are interested and I'm interested in. These are some of the groups that I'm interested in, some of the companies that I follow, etc., etc. Now, to go back on the jobs perspective, I'm not going to go that right now because we'll do another session, in the next session as well, a bit more about that. So just to let you know, the last thing is from a profile perspective, you can talk here about the actual profiles that you can write and the background and the feature, and then make sure to have all of these, aspects completed. So please, guys, make sure to go that. All right, we'll go back to the presentation. Patrick, again, let me know if everything's clear. So presentation is good. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Pat. So 50% of the hires result from a personal connection, and we'll talk a bit more as well about that in a bit. When we're talking about personal connection, what does it mean? The whole point of LinkedIn today is to build your professional network, right? You have people that are on the first degree connection, you have people that are on the second degree and the third degree, and we'll talk more about this. Today, I know Patrick, for example, I know Emil on a personal level. They are my first degree connection. They are people that I've connected with, they are people that I know, and they are people that I've worked with or I've had any interactions with in the past, right? For example, I don't know a girl called Dima, and she's shown here in our, on Zoom, but Patrick knows Dima. So how am I connected to Dima? I'm connected to Dima through Patrick. So Dima is actually my second degree connection because I don't know Dima, but Patrick knows Dima and I know Patrick, and I'm also connected to that second degree aspect. And finally, let's say I don't know Gael as well, and Dima knows Gael, but Patrick doesn't know Gael. So I'm also connected to Gael through a third degree connection. I'm connected to Gael through Patrick, who is also connected to Dima through Gael as well. And that's how we get to the third degree connection. The more connections you have on LinkedIn, the more bigger your network is. Now, I want to make sure because we got a question there on that aspect as well. I want to make sure that you guys know that please do not spam your connections by connecting to them. And especially, we're going to talk more about the etiquette of adding people on LinkedIn. Okay. When we're talking about a second degree connection, so I know Patrick and Patrick knows Dima, for example, and I want to connect to Dima myself. I always include a personal message on why I am actually connecting with you. What's the point? What's the purpose of connecting to you? شو عم بستفيد إذا أنا بكون connection معك. ما تنسوا something that's extremely important. LinkedIn is not Facebook. LinkedIn is not Instagram. So if you have 50,000 connection, that doesn't mean that you are like a superstar or an influencer. No, because actually LinkedIn limits your connection to 20,000 people. So you can actually be connected only to 20,000 people. So I don't care if you are an influencer on Instagram or Facebook, or that's all what you do and you try to get more followers. That doesn't help on LinkedIn. Make sure that you guys only connect to people that you are interested in and why you are interested in connecting with them. So for example, here we take the example of, that we've seen. Hi, Dan, I found your profile through our mutual connection. Patrick, for example. Rob, I'm currently exploring career path in the technology industry and I admire your experience. I would love to join your network. As simple as that. Like for example, you can connect with me today, right, and send me a message saying that, hi Zahi, I've attended your session at Rotaract. I would love to connect you. Why not? I would definitely accept these kind of connections. But if someone connects with me for no reason and I don't know why they connected, that's something that's also like I wouldn't be interested in connecting with. Okay. Now, when we are searching for a new connection, I want you guys to know that something important that you guys need to do, that when you are clicking connect, you can send your invitation immediately, or you can personalize your request to actually add a note by selecting add a note. It's always good and it's always helpful, like I said earlier, to add a note when you are sending a connection and you are searching for new connections on LinkedIn. Why? Because this helps to give authenticity for the actual connector, and it also gives a reason why you want to guys connect. I'll give you a very small example. Myself, I'm always trying to connect with people who are in the renewable industry, renewable energy industry. Why? Because something I'm passionate about is renewable energy, and I always would like to know more about renewable energy and what's happening in the world and that industry in particular. So whenever I send a connection to someone who is in that industry and I want to follow them and be connected to them on LinkedIn because I want to see what they're sharing, or etc., I always ask them and give them a reason why I would like to connect with them. Okay, moving on. Now, also one of the things that are it's important is that we are also expanding our network strategically. So I don't want, like I said earlier, I don't want you guys to go today and just start connecting to people. Especially we see that behavior across the MENA region. What's important is that you need to make sure that you have something in common with the person that you are connecting with. You are interested in a job at their company, for example, or you are interested actually in the company that they are working for, right? Or you want to help, you think that they can help you to achieve your goals or something that you are interested in. I'll give you here a real life example on that, and I'll tell you what's the point of my story, because that's how I got my job at LinkedIn, right? And I would love to share that story with you. So I was working at Alcatel Lucent entreprise in Paris, in Ile-de-Colombe. And I finished my master's, and during my master's I was connected to someone who attended the master's that I actually did a year before. Now that person was actually, I was connected to him on LinkedIn, and he was working at LinkedIn in Dublin. I was, again, like I said, I was happy in Alcatel. I was working in Alcatel doing marketing. Everything was working perfectly. And then one day I get a message on LinkedIn from a recruiter, and he mentioned that, hi Zahi, I saw your profile through our mutual connection X, right? And he is currently working at LinkedIn. We have an opening at LinkedIn for a business development representative. We are interested in your profile. Your profile looks interesting, and we would love to have a chat with you. As simple as that. Now, again, because I'm connected to that person and I was interested, in LinkedIn in general, right? The recruiter found me through a personal connection and the first degree connection. And then he sent me an email on LinkedIn. And that's how I was able to, get my job at LinkedIn. So eventually I've had the discussion with the recruiter. I did the interview at LinkedIn on Monday. And then on Friday, I did the second interview, which was more of a technical interview and go into the details. And then on the next Monday, LinkedIn sent me an offer to join them in Dublin as a sales development representative for the MENA region. So that's why I'm telling you guys, so make sure that when you are trying to connect to someone, mention who you are, how come you came across their profile, and how they can help you in doing whatever it is. If you actually want to connect with them just for the sake of learning more about their company or trying to just be up to date, that's fine. Make sure to mention that on LinkedIn in your message. So again, that's the story on actually how I found my job on LinkedIn. And again, obviously, because I've worked in LinkedIn and I was connected to the Dubai office, then the Dubai office reached out to me, and they eventually told me that there was a role open in Dubai, and that's how I moved to Dubai eventually. Now to move on. So to move on, I want you guys to make sure that you use your network on LinkedIn to connect to opportunities as well. Today, like I mentioned, there's more than 25 million jobs that are live on LinkedIn. at any given point, right? So make sure that you're messaging your connections if you are interested in something in particular. And again, like I said, don't spam your network on something that is not related from a professional perspective and professional aspect. And please, guys, I want you to know this because that's actually a big no-no, especially in the MENA region. Do not use LinkedIn to actually like meet people or try to like date people or for other things other than professional, because that's something hugely, or that's very wrong, especially in the MENA region. We, at LinkedIn, they do get a lot of complaints in that region in particular. So guys adding girls, girls adding guys, or whatever it is. Guys, LinkedIn is purely professional. When you are sending a message for someone, make sure that it's related to a professional thing on LinkedIn only. Okay, please do not use LinkedIn for anything else than professional. Ask for information on any interview. So if you are connected to someone in the company that you have an interview for or on, right, make sure that you ask them for information about the interview process, if they can guide you. Request a referral. If you find a job on LinkedIn and you know someone who works at that company, make sure to go and message that connection and ask them for a referral for that particular job that you are interested in. Request recommendations. Like I said, if you have connections that you've worked with in the past or whatever it is, make sure to mention that recommendation. And eventually find a mentor or a career advice that you want to add. Right? That always helps, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And eventually add value to the network and to your audience. Add value on LinkedIn. So make sure that you're sharing only relevant stuff on LinkedIn and stuff that are related to the business world and the professional world. I see myself from sometimes connections that are sharing stuff that aren't really related to anything related to professionalism. So that's a big no-no, and that makes me unfollow them, not remove them as a connection in particular, but if they keep on sharing that, I definitely will remove these kind of people that aren't really sharing stuff that are important or relevant, or something that's professional in that aspect. So a lot of times, for example, they share, like I've noticed that sometimes that people share, someone passed away, they share that like the reason, like they passed away or something. Or sometimes people share that like the problems in Lebanon or something that's like completely not related to a professional thing or something. So right, or sometimes they share that like an outing that they did, but that's not related to a professional stuff, right? So like they went to a club or something, like definitely not. So make sure to keep it professional, like I was saying earlier. And then eventually search for jobs. So this is where we bring into our next and final section, which is more about using LinkedIn to find jobs. Make sure to use LinkedIn in the proper way and to find jobs. Make sure to use search filters to find jobs. Make sure to use filters to find jobs, and make sure to add the relevant details on what you want to do to find jobs. Okay, and we'll talk more about this in a bit, and I'll show you a real life example on that as well. From a search alert perspective, make sure that when you're talking about something, create a search alert to be notified when there are jobs that you are interested in, and by turning on the job alerts, and I'll show you this in a bit, and use filters in the search bar area to create actually filters, because there's 25 million jobs. You're not going to go through 25 million jobs, like that's insane. So add keywords, add job titles, add function, industry, experience level. If you are a fresh grad, make sure to add that, and the date that these jobs are posted, so that you wouldn't apply for a job that's been posted for a year, but technically the employer didn't remove that job, but like they forgot or something, but that job has been closed for a year, because that's a waste of time, right? So make sure to add that and add these things on LinkedIn. And finally, learn. Today, obviously, because of the pandemic and what's happening, there's a lot of online learning courses that you can set up for free and paid, right? So there's a lot of learning courses that are on LinkedIn Learning that sometimes are for free, and they make them for free. The second thing is I want to mention is that if you have a premium profile on LinkedIn, you can actually get LinkedIn Learning for free with your premium profile on LinkedIn. Also, you get access to the LinkedIn Learning database. And sometimes there's other websites that have free learning courses online. Like, for example, the Harvard University, they posted around 50 courses that are online on different aspects. So if you have free time, or you're out of job, you're unemployed, don't just sit there and not do anything. Actually try to upskill yourself and upskill your career, and try to learn something that is like booming, for example, right? Coding is another thing. C++ is another thing, or developer and becoming a developer, and these kind of stuff that these are the things that are booming and the next big things from a jobs perspective. Okay. And then eventually, I think what you need to know is that, no, what happened? Okay, sorry. Eventually, what you need to know and what you need to post on LinkedIn, there are three main things I would say. So one is that there's almost 2 billion interactions every week on LinkedIn. That's insane, right? Even more, I think, right now. Make sure that you are interacting on LinkedIn as well. So make sure that you are liking, sharing, posting, all of these things on LinkedIn. Post 1/3 of the time some personal interests. So what you are actually personally interested about. Obviously, like I said, within the professional standards. Make sure to talk more about your industry that you are in. So like, for example, if someone here is in, the food industry or the FMCG or architecture industry or even healthcare industry, if you have anything, an article that is related to your industry, make sure to mention that. And then the last 1/3 is talk more about your company and where you are working. If you have work, make sure to talk about that. If you are looking for a job, no need to talk about that, right? So these are some of the things that make sure that are like do's or don't on LinkedIn. Now, finally, before, and thank you for attending, obviously, and we're gonna do now the live demo about the jobs, and then we'll move it to Gael. But just again, to remind you guys, if you have any questions, that's the barcode. You can scan it there, and then you can actually type any questions that you have, and we'll have them in a bit. Okay. So before moving forward, I just want to show you guys a real life example on, on how to find jobs on LinkedIn. Wow, my LinkedIn just got 16 requests. Thank you guys. Okay, so from a jobs perspective, so here you can see everything related to the job, right? And here you can talk more about the different companies and what you are interested in. So let's say today I am interested in account director. Okay. So today I went on account director, and these are the jobs that are related to me. Account director, and you can see here that because of my IP address and where I am currently, I am in Dubai, and also my past interactions, LinkedIn will automatically show me jobs that are related to account director and that also are within where I am searching for from an IP address. Now, obviously, also because I've put here United Arab Emirates, because I am in United Arab Emirates. Let's say Patrick today is actually interested in going as an account director to Paris. So there's also here the aspects where Patrick can go on the different jobs and he can put the location. Now, what we can do is I want you guys to know that you can filter past week, past month, past 24 hours. These are some of the important aspects that you need to make sure. You can put the experience level. So what kind of experience we're talking about. And you can also make sure that you're filtering via the company name. So these are some of the company that they have posted as an account director. There's 1,000 jobs, account director. We can tomorrow talk about full-time, contract, internship, part-time, or temporary. These are some of the important things. We can even today, because of COVID, that's a new feature from LinkedIn. We can even talk more about remote jobs. So as an account director, if I put remote, so you can see here that these are senior director and account director for companies for related jobs that are remotely. So you can work actually opportunity for working remotely in all of these companies. So this is also another feature. Now you can see here that I have this as a job alert. So if I click on this, I can see that I'm going to get alerts for every new job that I get. I can get notified on email as a notification on my app, or I can get notified on both. And that's something important that I want you guys to know and to put. Okay. Now, when we're talking more about jobs perspective here, let me show you on your own profile. The last thing is I want to show you when you are like going on your own profile. So these are my personal, for example, I'm open to remote work, job titles that I'm interested in, and the job locations that I'm interested in. So I'm interested in moving to Dubai, Ireland, Netherlands, France, or EMEA, anything related to EMEA. And that's something that the job type that I'm actually interested in. And I can put here that I can either show to all LinkedIn members that I'm open to work, or I can just show to recruiters, right? That's also another thing that I want you guys to know and guys to see. Now, from a jobs perspective as well, you can see here that I can filter via the salary. I can see the jobs. I can see the skills assessment, and a new feature that is a resume builder and interview prep. These are new features that are on LinkedIn. From a resume builder perspective, you can actually upload your resume. Is that on CV that is ready? You can actually upload it on LinkedIn, and it will help you to build it in a more efficient way, and especially build your profile from that particular aspect. Or I can create a resume from my own profile as well. That's why, guys, I told you in the beginning, make sure to add everything on LinkedIn because it really helps. Now, again, when I go back to, because of my premium features, these are the jobs that are, I'm a top applicant. So let's say, obviously, LinkedIn is recommending me to go back to LinkedIn. Let me just click on Spotify. Just to show you how are the aspects of this. So you can see here that for Spotify, I'm in the top 25% of 500 applicants. You can see here that there's a lot of skills that I didn't put. You know, I have only 1 out of the top 10 skills among all other applicants. I don't have corporate communications in my skill set. I don't have business analysis, for example. And you can see here the seniority level and the location of the people that applied. So there's 15 people almost that applied from India, 15 from the UK, etc. And this is also another feature from Premium. Now, obviously, because I have Premium here, you can see the company growth, and you can see here the median tenure is 1.5 years. You can see that 4 people were hired at Spotify from my own university. That's why, guys, I told you that it's important to increase your connections, even from a university perspective, because now what I can do is I can click on See All, just to show you. I can ask Romain, for example, okay, or Boin. I can actually connect with them, and I can actually add a note. Hello, Romain, you know, hope you're well, blah, blah, blah. It's amazing that we actually went. It's amazing that we went to the same university in Grenoble. I would like to connect with you because I saw that there is an open opportunity at Spotify. I was wondering if you can refer me. Now, obviously, I'm not going to send this, but just show you. I was wondering if you can refer me. And then send. And then that will go to Romain. We are at the same university. We were connected, and that he's going to refer me. Okay. Now, again, this is the jobs feature, like I said. That's Lyon. Today, we went over with the profile section. Make sure to add all of this. And then I think that's it from my side for today. You know, if you have any questions or any details, now the time, I think, with Gael, she's going to lead the session from a Q&A perspective, and then we'll take it forward from there. Thanks, guys, for attending, and Gael, up to you.
Okay, so hi guys, I'm gonna share my screen. Please let me know إذا ما بينت أو شيء. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, so I'll go over the questions بشكل تدريجي من أكثر وحدة أخذوا لايكس للآخر قد ما فينا. There are more than 30 questions. So بالأول, what is the maximum number of skills اللي لازم ينحطوا on the person's profile?
Good question. I think it's around 45 skills. Now, obviously, there have been some updates on LinkedIn, but I think it's around 45 skills that you can put the maximum, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely, I would definitely encourage you to put a minimum of 20 to 30. So, ما في شيء أقل. And that's a big advice.
Okay. So next question. Should we post our CV on LinkedIn, or should we only mention the experiences, the skills, etc., on our own profile?
Thank you for that question. Actually, I was waiting for that question. So your CV is your LinkedIn profile. You don't need to post your CV on your LinkedIn profile. You should actually post as much as information as you can, and you don't need a CV anymore. So something that I forgot to mention as well, which is a lot of companies anymore, they don't even have CVs, or they don't even ask for CVs anymore. They just recruit off of LinkedIn. So please, 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 you know, if you have as much information as you can on LinkedIn, no need to actually post the CV, because it's not gonna have more information than your LinkedIn profile. It shouldn't actually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Next, should I stay on LinkedIn even if I found a job that I want to stay in?
Perfect. Thanks, Gael, for that. Definitely. You never know. what is the next opportunity, or how you can, where are you going to be. I'll give you a very small example about myself. أنا كنت ب LinkedIn. So I was at LinkedIn 4 years and a half. I was very happy. Everything was good, working well. And then also, the co-founder and my business partner, Samer, he reached out to me and he mentioned that, and he said that, like, hey, we have an opportunity, etc. It's the same thing during my time when I was at Alcatel. So انا ما تنسوا انا كنت مثلكم بالكاتيل، كنت مبسوط بشغلي مرتاح, everything's working perfectly. I never thought that I'm gonna actually move to Dublin and work for LinkedIn, but I did because of a LinkedIn message. So always be open to new opportunities, always, even if you're extremely happy in your job.
Okay. So next, should we post every activity we do, or for example, volunteering or any workshop we attend to? I guess already جاوبت على هذا السؤال, بس I wanted to mention that.
Yes, yes.
We already
Yeah.
حكيت عنه.
Yeah, we already talked about this. So
Also,
where can I add my Coursera certificates? Do you want to have بدك نردها هيدا؟
can you share your screen وتعمل demonstration on where to add?
هي بالسكشن بالاccomplishment section guys. في محل certifications and licenses إذا تحت above the accomplishment section on your LinkedIn profile. When you're clicking on the right side, add profile section. Yes Gael 100. Okay, تفرجيهم add profile section فوق on the top. Yeah, shift. لا مش هون, في محل add profile section 100. Licenses and certifications 100%. برافو عليك.
Okay.
So anything here you can put the Coursera.
من هون ما هيك؟
Yes, correct, 100%. بالissuance organization you can put Coursera here, for example.
دغري بتبين.
دغري بتبين, yes, 100%.
Okay, next. How often should I post something?
So, like for I definitely recommend once a week, for example. But إذا ما عندكم شيء to post, you don't need to post. يعني ما تنسوا شغلة إنه like I said initially, and برجع بعيدة. LinkedIn is not Instagram or Facebook, so you shouldn't post إنه شو عم تاكلوا أو شو عم تعملوا أو وين مسافرين or whatever it is. No, just post something that's relevant. إذا أنتوا شفتوا article مثلا from a third party website, like for example Forbes Middle East or Business Insider, and you are interested in that, and you think that it's relevant to your network and you want to share it, go ahead. So that's something that I would advise.
Okay, so still about sharing experiences and skills, etc. Someone asked, is they played in the Lebanese basketball second division. Is it an experience to be shared on LinkedIn?
Yes, yeah, why not? I mean, أنا لعبت بالدرجة الثانية بالباسكتبول بغزير, but yes, definitely add this on LinkedIn if you are passionate about sports or any kind of sports. Why not? I mean, there's no harm in that.
Okay.
It also gives you a bit of team player, that twist from a team player perspective. So why not?
So Ali asked a question. أنا كمان عم بسألها هيدي الكيستيون إنه is it worth buying premium؟
Good question. Good question. Yeah, good question. Ali سأل هذا السؤال. Okay, Ali, thanks for that. ليك صراحة, especially I think right now بلبنان مع الدولار والكريدت كارد, ما بعرف أنا كيف السيستم كتير بلبنان هلا. بس if you are interested in upskilling yourself and if you want access to the LinkedIn learning, definitely buy LinkedIn Premium. إذا أنتم بدكم تاخذوا, إذا عبالكم تاخذوا courses and all of that, I definitely recommend you to get LinkedIn Premium if you are interested in that aspect. If you think that LinkedIn Premium is going to help you to find a job, not really. It's not going to add that much of a value if you're actually, just looking for a job and you want to use the premium account just for that. Okay, it helps because LinkedIn Premium account will give you some in-mails that you can in-mail some hiring managers. So if, I definitely recommend you, but because of the situation with Lebanon and all of that, I don't know how feasible it is.
هلا هي بدك بفتكر يكون عندك فريش اكاونت كرمال تقدر تحول, لانه هلا we're not able to
ما عندي فكرة صراحة, so ما بدي اقول شيء غلط ويكون انه عرفتي, so I don't know.
As for the next question, عندنا where can I find the LinkedIn courses and can I get a free certificate once I complete it?
Perfect. So Gael, maybe do you want to go on LinkedIn on your LinkedIn profile لقلهم وين? Okay, perfect. So بس سكري هيدي. On the top right قال work وين محطوط work top right yeah LinkedIn learning شفتيها learning guys شفتوها LinkedIn learning she clicks on it and then you'll get obviously هلا قال عندها start free month لانه بعد ما عندها اياه if you have premium account usually you have this for free there's a lot of courses that you can take as well from that aspect هلا اذا بتلاحظوا شغله انه
في بيكس لإلي كمان انه I'm a software
صح
developer.
exactly لانه Gael is in that industry so LinkedIn will automatically show pics that are for Gael.
Okay, so great. Is it good to post university projects?
Yeah, if the university projects are relevant, yes, definitely. أنا حطيت اللايف business case تبعي على LinkedIn لأنه it's relevant to my industry كانت more about business development and وقتها رحنا على كوريا وعملناها إنه it shows a bit of diversity إنه افرح على كوريا يعني that's why by the way.
Okay, so هون عندنا 3 questions كتير قراب من بعضهم. So the industry is our major أول شيء. Posting university projects لازم نحط أسامي professors والcontent اللي عم نحطه from undergrad student في شيء تاني غير الacademic content لازم نحطه.
Good questions, all of them good questions, relevant questions. So our industry is our major. Yes, I mean, if there is civil engineering is going to be your industry, obviously. Do I ضيعت شوي. خلص it's fine بس بتذكره بس لأنه كنت عم بقرا anyway. So that's one. You should mention your professors if you want. If your professors عندهم LinkedIn profile and you have very good relationship with them, definitely mention them. Why not? Also, the last thing شو كان دخلك السؤال last one؟
إنه إذا نحن undergrad students شو الأفضل نحط على البروفايل شو الأشياء اللي فينا نعملها post؟
Yeah, انه احسن يعني صراحه if you are an undergrad still and بعد ما خلصت جامعه make sure انه انت هلا بس at least start building your network and your profile until you actually graduate and start looking for a job.
هلا في حدا سأل كمان انه عنده two nationalities do they have to mention هيدا الشيء؟
No need. No need.
Okay.
No need. But you can if you want but انه يعني ما حسب الا اذا انت الا اذا انت مثلا فرنساوي او عم بتقدم على job بفرنسا بس انت بلبنان. So yes, no, I would definitely recommend you لانه بيبقى بتأثر شوية.
So okay, so I feel like فوق هول should we ask a person before mentioning them?
We should ask a person. Yes, of course, definitely, because sometimes people don't want to be mentioned on something in particular.
Okay, should I put club activities in experience or organization?
Both it doesn't really matter. Club activities حسب أي club. إذا أنت اليوم الكلاب related to أكتر للدرس for example بحطها بالeducation. إذا أكتر related للwork حطه بالwork. You can actually ما رح تأثر هيدا.
Okay. Would the location cause any limitation regarding our willingness to travel because our desired location is usually different?
Very good question actually. Gael, can we go back on your LinkedIn profile?
أكيد.
رح نفتح لك اليوم كل اللينكدين بروفايل تبعك. So just في مطرح خليني بس شامي. Okay, so let's go on open to work please. شفتيها تحت ايه؟ لا على اليمين في هذا القلم يلي حد open to work. ايه ميمي 100%. So إذا لاحظتي في مطرح job types ده and then I'm open to remote work and you can put the locations.
so هون. Okay.
Yes, حطي I'm open to remote and حطي I add locations. You can actually put انه انت مستعده تنقلي بلد عادي.
اوكي يلا خليها دبي ان شاء الله بياخدوه.
So perfect. At least we showed them that.
Okay. How LinkedIn differs from our CV?
LinkedIn is better than your CV. منك بحاجه بقى your CV اذا انت عندك a proper LinkedIn profile. Unless a شركه is actually asking for your CV, then fine, you can send them your CV.
So we have a stalker هون but he wants to visit someone's profile without them knowing.
ما فيكن. I like that. Please don't stalk and don't send weird messages guys, like I said, عن جد أنا ما بتخيلوا قد إيه كنت وقت أنا حتى كنت بلينكدين I was responsible for a bit of that department at some point. كان في كتير قصص harassment sometimes قصص هيك يعني please make sure to just use LinkedIn for business and professional services only.
وهالسير do you recommend that we accept connection requests حتى لو ما نعرف الشخص اللي عم يبعث لنا request؟
ليكي انا كنت رح فرجيهم صراحه كنت رح فرجيهم ماي نتورك بس يعني I didn't do it لانه اجاني اصلا كثير ريكوست هلا بس guys just to let you know something يعني انا for example ما بعمل accept يعني بيجيني تقريبا صراحه 20 to 30 request connections per day and يعني I don't usually accept everyone just for the sake of accepting لانه يعني لانه also it spams your يعني اذا بتطلع على الهوم بيج تبعك just to show them quickly home. Yeah. So انتوا اليوم ما تنسوا if you are just accepting people all the time they're gonna spam your انتوا اليوم يعني اذا بتطلعوا على home tab so تلقى حط a new post بس عليها. Yeah. So this also all the time this will ما تنسوا it will refreshes depending on your connections on what they're share. So مش هيك عم لكم انه اذا انتوا اليوم you're adding people that صراحه كثير مزعجين صاروا وعم they're sharing stuff that are irrelevant they're gonna يعني completely destroy your home page.
اوكي هلا انا كثير مبسوطه بالهوم بيج عندي دان أز هي سبام. Okay, I've taken several online courses, but didn't get certifications from them. Should I mention it on my profile?
If I take a certificate, yes, definitely. لو حتى ما معك certification, you know, but at least إنه make sure يكونوا يعني حقيقيين. بتكون since هلا اليوم يعني هيك we're trying to be هيك closer to each other, especially يعني كرمال باتريك. I'll share a couple of things. So أنا اليوم في كم يعني كان عندنا a couple of roles that are open at Kaizen firm بالشركة كنا عم نوظف في حدا that we've sourced كان حاطط certifications that we were required